Hello, how you doing, YouTube? So, it's like weirdly quiet right now. And yeah, I'm gonna make a video kind of about something called Jnana Yoga, which is J N A Nya N A Jnana Yoga. And Jnana kind of like gnosis in Greek. Sorry. And knowledge, gnosis, jnana, same kind of, yeah. And so basically, jnana yoga meaning yuj or union in Sanskrit, same with jnana, Sanskrit, eh. So, jnana yoga, basically knowledge union. Yeah. So the practice of unionization with the tool or the path or the school of knowledge, contemplation, or jnana. And there's different types of jnana or knowledge or gnosis. There's vijnana, which is like experienced, personal, firsthand, lived, felt, understood, intuitively known truth. That's vijnana, something like that. Okay? And then the other types are like basically less sturdy types of knowledge and shit, you know what I mean? Like hearing something from somebody else, or just taking somebody's word for something, or having an idea, or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's different types of knowledge. And there are different levels of like concreteness when it comes to knowledge and stuff like that. And like different like condensation levels of consciousness that the mind can grasp when it comes to like concepts and like, yeah, like, yeah. And so, yeah, basically, when it comes to Jnana Yoga, if you could think of the mind, the chitta, which is the backdrop, kind of like the screen that it's all on. Consciousness is kind of like that too, but the chitta is like when you close your eyes and there's like a yeah, so yeah, when it comes to knowledge, say the goal of yoga is unionization of all of the energies, layers of the body, sheaths, whatever you want to call them, with the core of being, the foundation of being, the self, the Brahman, the Om, the foundation of being, which is like spirit, kind of can be thought of as analogous with breath or something like that, which is like where spirit can be found is something along the lines of the moment where inhale becomes exhale. So think about it. To begin, think about it. What are you? I'm asking you, person watching this video right now. What are you? So like, are you your body? If you think the answer is yes, what part of the body are you? Are you your hand? If you're your hand, which finger? All of them? Are you your arm? Both of them? Which arm are you? Both of them? Are you the whole body? The brain? Which part of the brain are you? All of the brain? Some of the brain? Which one's you? Are you because there seems to be one being, do you know what I mean? You know? Are you the perspective? Which part are you? If you think of it as a bunch of atoms, which you technically are, you know? Or just condensified consciousness, or technically neti, you know what is this stuff? But like, yeah. Which atom are you? Are you your perspective? Or are you the being looking through your perspective? Because you aren't any bit. You have a mind, you have a perspective, you have a body. You aren't any bit of it alone. If you think about it, and kind of let go of everything that you're not. So if you understand, okay, not my body alone, so I can't cling to that as an idea of what I am alone. You can, this is called sensory withdrawal. The 9 gates of the body, or the indriyas, or the, yeah. So yeah, kind of, yeah, mix of practices, but yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sacrals are getting cleared. Yeah, there's Kundalini music going on. Into. So, what the fuck were we talking about? Oh yeah, okay, Indriya sensory withdrawal. Okay, so, I'm not my body alone. Because I know I'm not any one bit of my body. So there has to be something transcendent to any one, like, atom or molecule or cell, or do you know what I mean? Something transcendent of that. So I can withdraw from skin inward to like my core, like my spine and shit, you know what I mean? Like the middle of my body, my pineal gland, my brain, and I can kind of pull all the way into like this unified kind of point that there is to be found. And like I said, like a concept that you can think of is the moment where inhale becomes exhale. It's like union of opposites. There's tons of ways to, yeah, like the silence between the sound, between the, yeah, like the steadiness that's there beneath any kind of oscillation, the unity beneath the complexity. There's tons of like different words and shit and like phrases that you can use to try and describe this, but basically you just kind of have to find it for yourself if you don't know what I'm talking about. Basically what I'm talking about is the self, that is the attributeless, formless, like nameless, I guess, like consciousness, just raw potentiality itself, like the sea of potentially, like potentiality. Sorry, I'm stumbling. Just consciousness itself, to raw consciousness, the Brahman, or the Aum, or the self. Tons of different words for it. God, potentiality, like yeah, the whatever it's all made out of, whatever material it's all made out of, that's its like body. That's what it is, and this whole thing adds up to yeah, whatever the self is. It's not this, not that. Nothing like alone. You know what I mean? None of it separately. There's nothing that isn't it. There's no line where something is the self and then stops being the self. And so the whole freaking thing, the whole universe or whatever, the whole multiverse, yeah, simultaneously in the present moment, the razor edge present moment, is free of any mental distortion, any oscillations of the mind. That is the Brahman, or the Om, or yeah. And it can't be held by the mind, because whatever it is not dual. Whatever it is not dual. So it's not this, it's not that. It's neither expression nor void. It's neither something nor nothing. It's neither here nor there. It's neither the experience or the experienced or the experiencer. It's not this, not that. Anything you can name. So any word, any concept, anything you can point at, anything the mind can, it's not that. Okay, whatever. Yeah, it can't be. Because it has to be, there's more than whatever that is. Whatever your mind can hold, it's more than whatever that is. Do you understand what I mean? So, basically, if you want to experience this Brahman, this Om, this self, the self, capital S, if you want to find it, which is kind of the goal of meditation, like, there's many ways to phrase what the goal of meditation is. It's, yeah, I don't talk about this much, but yeah. If you want to find it, if you close your eyes, think of it like, if you feel like you're a bunch of parts, like you're all fragmented and shit, or if you feel like there's a you and then a yourself, like there's a duality between you and then yourself, or something like that, close your eyes and find the one being that is just there, kind of observing, the witness to all of this, kind of attributeless, just kind of there, all the way in the back, kind of. And if you find that being, like, I don't know how to put it, but the fundamental reality is something like, and again, any word at all that I can say is something besides absolute truth. You know, with every light casts a shadow, with every spoken word, there's, you know, sound waves are like this, and so it's a yin yang. It has to be half true and half not quite how it is. Anything I could speak at all. I forget what the fuck else I was gonna say. Oh yeah, if you're trying to find it. So yeah, once you find that being, if you can't quite find it, oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, if you can find that unity beneath the complexity, that being that's just always kind of there in the background, where that being is at, slash kind of how that being perceives reality for each one of us. This is the, like I said, the foundation of being, or the net of being. You can think of it, or Indra's net, or the Brahman, or the Om, or, you know, the conceived reality, the fundamental reality, which is, you know, yeah. You can kind of think of it as one thing, but like I said, it's neither positive nor negative, neither expression nor void, neither something nor nothing. And it exists in something like the non-dual reality, or something in non-duality. Like, yeah, it's like the reality is something like non-dual. And again, I don't want the mind to get too attached to any word. And if the mind gets too attached to the word non-duality, it's going to try and find non-duality in dualistic inception, and it's gonna fucking break, dude, which I've experienced. You can see the mind fucking cook when it tries to do that shit, so I'm being careful with it, but yeah. Be careful with this information, and make sure you meditate a lot before you try and force your mind to experience a non-dual reality, because if your mind is constantly fixated on narration and like describing your experience, so if you're just chilling here and like you're just thinking about shit constantly, like yeah, meditate for a while and get good at making your mind calm, still, kind of like a pond. Do you know what I mean? Like without ripples, just reflecting what it's experiencing with your senses, like kind of aimed inward and outward simultaneously if you can, reflecting the self which is within once you find that unity, and what you're experiencing simultaneously, understanding that there's no duality between these things, between inside and outside and any of this. Yeah. And once you've meditated for a while and you're kind of familiar with having a still mind, a completely blank, stilled, just once you can dwell there for a while comfortably, then you can ask the self, straight up, this is pretty much how I'll recommend it, on the inside, ask the self to show you the non-dual reality, or nirvana, or whatever you want to call And if the self thinks you're ready, he'll show you. And at first you'll go there once, and then you'll be considered what is called like a bodhisattva or something like that, or a once returner. And yeah, you go there once, and once you're there for the first time, I'm not gonna lie, it will be strangely familiar because it's home. You just forget it because there's no way to conceive it. There's no way to conceive it. But it's home, but it's very, very different than dualistic conceptual reality if your mind is heavily attached to what it thinks reality is. Because there is, like, you're still breathing, dude, but you cannot feel a difference between inhale and exhale. Birth and death, silence and sound, positive and negative at all, pleasure and pain, warm and cold, any duality at all. There is no such duality between any of it, and if you're in the non-dual reality, it's like you can tangibly, there's no words. There's just no words. Once you're there, I know what I said this life was, I never want to go back. I never want to go back. As soon as I was there, I never want to go back. And I haven't. It's been great. But yeah, I recommend it. Oh well, yeah, I went there once and then I had to return, and and after that for a while, after the mental hospital, yeah, I went there one time and then immediately went to the mental hospital after that because my mind was still narrating. And when it did that in non-duality, the mind cannot comprehend non-duality. It cannot comprehend it at all. It fries it. Y'all, you just have to go and experience this for yourself to figure out what the fuck because there's no way to, yeah. But yeah, my mind, like, just had to, like, find a way to describe what it was experiencing. And when you're in the non-dual reality, dude, there's just, especially when it comes to silence and sound, the fact that there was no difference between silence and sound, dude, especially inhale and exhale, it just, yeah, like, like, there was no difference between, like, what are the ones that trip me out the most? Oh yeah, like, I was like feeling my clothes. There was no difference between touching something and not touching something. Anything I felt, there was no duality between that. There's no duality between hitting a vape and not hitting a vape. There was no duality between happy and sad. There was no duality between ecstasy and hell. There was no duality between, like, speaking and not speaking. There was no duality between standing and sitting. There was no duality between, dude, I could go on. The mind breaks. Any duality you can possibly conceive of in the non-dual reality, there's no duality between whatever duality you're thinking of. If you try and describe it while you're experiencing it, your mind will fucking fry, dude. So what I recommend is, once you've meditated for a while and gotten good at stilling your mind, that it's safe to ask the self to show you the non-dual reality. And if you can do that with a still mind, it's perfect. It's heaven. It's bliss. Whatever, somehow, without dualistic conceptual layerage over reality, in non-duality, dude, without the mind's fucking chatter, it is fucking bliss. Heaven. Perfect. Don't take my word for it, go find out. But yeah, it somehow adds up to perfect. Not adds up to, but yeah. It's neither somewhere nor nowhere, it's, yeah. The first time I got there, I could not stop crying for, it's just, yeah. Heaven is the best word I could put for it, yeah. But then again, I said there's no duality between heaven and hell, and non-dual reality, but yeah. Yep. And yeah. And yeah. It just depends, like, it all depends on how still your mind is, and, you know, with all mental illness, in my opinion, with my experience, which I've experienced mental illness for a fat portion of my life, so I don't think I'm talking down to, like, yeah. Mental illness, in my opinion, is a hyperactive mind, an overactive, in some kind of way, mind. And so meditation is basically the practice of stilling the oscillations of the mind. And so if you're like me, which the reason I started meditating was because I had a bunch of anxiety at work, and I wanted to be more chill and less tweaky. And so I looked up I found Healthy Gamer GG, freaking Dr. K, on YouTube, and he had meditation videos, and it, like, I don't know, there was just something in me. I was like, I need to get into this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to start meditating. I need to, see what this is about, and, like, see what the health benefits of meditation is, and, like, see if it works for me, because it seems like it might, and it did. Yeah. And so, like, as soon as I, but yeah, basically I say that to say, like, it took me a couple years, like, a couple years, and I had to go through a lot of suffering, a lot of ego deaths, because the mind has to get good at not clinging to anything at all if you want to find the absolute razor edge of the present moment. If you want to find the absolute razor edge of the present moment, the mind can't be, like, stuck up or hung up or, caught up, or what do you want to say, preoccupied with anything at all. Anything at all. And that takes some practice, at least it did for me. And I still have to practice this every day, because minds do that. This is kind of what minds do. And so if you can get your mind good at not clinging to anything at all, and just kind of being a pond, you know what I mean? A still pond with no ripples, just reflecting what it's experiencing, including the self. You can still it all the way to the razor edge of the present moment without clinging to anything at all. And dwell there for a while. Then non-duality is like, where you're probably gonna go next. And you're probably never gonna wanna go anywhere else. Even though it's not somewhere else. It's not somewhere or nowhere, it's not, but basically. And so I recommend meditation if you have any kind of mental, just like how I did, whatever you want to say. Meditation and focusing practices like pranayama, which is breath work. So alternate nostril breathing, like in, out, in, out, kind of balances the yin and yang nadi channels, or the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous systems, or fucking balances the body a bit. And you can also think of, like, breath fire, like, which kind of gets the diaphragm, the plexus chakra, kind of activated or ignited, or whatever you want to say. Breath ignites a lot of the energy in the body. It gets stuck from, like, if you allow your mind to become heavily distracted, the coordination of the body gets kind of, like, screwed up, and, like, your vitality overall becomes cluttered and, like, clogged up the same way your mind does, because it's all connected. There's no line between any of it, no. So the less kind of clingy your mind is, the cleaner your energy will be, and your body overall, and your health will be better as well. And that's what yoga is about as well. This is Jnana Yoga, which is W yoga, but physical yoga is all about, like, twisting and doing postures and shit, which gets the consciousness on your body to let go if you hold it at certain postures, and you can get your mind to completely let go without having to do like hatha yoga or like physical yoga postures in many different ways. But yeah, knowledge is just one way, but yeah, there's many different ways. And yeah, the goal is getting the mind to completely let go. And the final kind of thing that the mind has to let go of before you get to the Brahman, the Om, the raw consciousness, the Nirvana, the non-dual reality, the whatever you want to say, self, is the ahamkara, the ego, the sense of I, the I maker, whatever the fuck you want to say. The yeah. And if you want to get through that, basically you have to get rid or set down everything that you're not, which is any concept at all. What is the sense of I? What bit is it? There's no bit. What atom? What the fuck is it? What is the sense of I? Dude, it is literally, it is your mind holding consciousness in a freaking little spot right here. Actively holding it there with intensified pressure. The same way you do this, the same way you do that. Your mind, the same way your mind does this, your mind is doing that with consciousness right here. Basically recording what it sees happening with a filter of what it can understand about it, which is dualistic conception. It has to be. It has to be expression. Something. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And yeah. Yeah. And so yeah. If you're interested in truth, the fundamental reality, yeah, instead of whatever the mind thinks reality is. Whatever you think reality is, it's not that alone. We all have ideas, but basically the practice of Jnana Yoga or sensory withdrawal, whatever you think it is, it's not that. Like, you just set down each concept that the mind is clinging to mentally. So, what do I think reality is? Kind of like a cosmic womb, like a womb of potential or a sea of potential. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all black and murky, like a black ocean of just raw potentiality, just void, kind of. These are all conceptions, but you know, like space, but not space. Like, yeah, I can't, like, yeah, you know what I mean? There's no word, but so all of that, it can't be any of that conception alone. Anything like that alone. It's beyond that. So I'll set that down. It's not quite that. It's not quite that conception alone. Whatever reality actually truly is, my mind has, I can admit, my mind, whatever my mind can, I have no idea. I, which is just orbiting consciousness in this area, through this perspective, which happens to be held together through this mind, which is pinching it together, which is a function of the mind, which is a happenstance of this being a living thing. If I could just let that go in all 10 directions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 2 for each, yeah, yin and yang kind of. And think of it like spinning, because it's like, ow, it's like a constant thing. And so it's not just like sitting there like a as it is constantly, yeah. And you can let go of that sense of I if you're not caught up on thinking that you're this individual. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm me, myself, whatever the fuck that is. Which, like, what are you? Which atom? Dude, you know what I mean? And yeah, once you can let go of that, and let go of the consciousness, whatever the fuck consciousness actually is, whatever it's made out of, whatever material, you know what I mean? It's beyond conception. You can let go of that, And you could think of that sense of I, instead of being just this little peephole, it becomes a door that you can just walk through. And once you let go of that ego, that I maker function of the mind, which is just a tendency, a habituation, you can train the mind to not do that. Straight up, you can train the mind to not do that anymore. Because once you realize it's doing that, you get tired of just looking through a freaking tiny peephole. A chattery peephole, shut the fuck up. Because it's constantly trying to record shit about reality to preserve its image of what it thinks reality is. Because that's the only way it can exist. And it gets you disconnected from the present moment. And that's where life is at. And so before you know it, you're missing out on life itself because of this stupid little point. And once you realize you're the self behind, or behind isn't the right word, but dude, yeah, you just get over it, dude. And so yeah, once you let go of that, and find the present moment, the razor edge, and if you train the mind to be still, and not cling to any of it at all, and you can let go of needing to constantly record with your mind, because memory will exist. Memory still is there in something called Akasha or Akashic Records and shit like that. But if you have faith, you don't have to consciously choose what you remember, even though you had to in like high school. I recommend, if you're trying to get the mind kind of trained to find the self and shit, just trust that whatever you need to remember, the self will remember for you. And yeah, just kind of like find a state of effortlessness and live in a state of not trying to do fucking anything at all. If you want to live in nirvana with no pain, because there's no duality between positive and negative, or pain and pleasure, or any of, yeah. And so it's all perfect, basically. It all adds up to something like that. Just yeah, if you want to live in a state of consciousness where it's all perfect, then just let go of everything, basically. Let go of everything. And just trust the self to kind of, do what's right and stuff. Like, follow your heart or whatever. The creator of reality and all that shit. The Lord of Love, or what do you want to say? Because as it turns out, that being that's beneath all that complexity and all that shit is like love itself. Like, yeah, God. And all this is words, like I said, but yeah, it's not just cold awareness. It's a being. And these are words, but it's a being, dude. And that self, like, yeah. That self, the Godhead, or whatever you want to say. Yeah, it loves. It's all made out of love, basically. It's hard to put how this, but it's basically all made out of the love that the self is. I'm like, yeah, dude, yeah. I recommend it. I recommend finding this self. It's called self-actualization, or not actualization, but self-realization. Realizing that you are that being and not any concept that the mind can understand. Like, do you know what I mean? Or your body, or any such identification. Once you can let go of all that shit and get the mind to not cling to any of it at all, you can find that being that you actually are. The Lord of Love, or whatever, the core of your heart. And once you find that being, you won't want to pretend to be anything else anymore. I swear to you. You won't want to pretend to be any bit ever again. Because once you realize you're not any bit, you can't be affected by any bit don't know how to put it, but yeah. Straight up, you're like chilling, no matter what happened. You just, yeah. So yeah, don't take my word for it. Go find out. Get your personal first-hand experience, basically. Just meditate for a while, and once you get your mind to not cling to anything at all, ask yourself to show you the non-dual reality, and if you can go there without your mind chattering too much, keep meditating for a while. I recommend books like the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. And yeah, it can be done by just about it. Well, it can be done by anybody. Because we are all that self. Every living thing. All of creation. We are all that self. And so any of us can find that self that we all are. It's not like it's off limits to something that isn't it. So yeah, I recommend finding that self. And yeah. There's lots of good news about that too. There's no duality between birth and death. So yeah, the self is transcendent of that. Transcendent. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah. But yeah, the self is transcendent of like the dualistic conceptions such as like birth and death and stuff like that. And yeah, like feeling death, if you're like not identified with anything at all, if you don't couple the idea of awareness with any bit, if you're detached, if you die physically, the body, not you, but if your body dies, dude, you barely fucking notice it. It's like taking a shirt off or an old shoe. You will barely notice it. We have all died millions of times, dude, and you just don't remember it. Seriously, you just don't remember it. And if you're identified with nothing and you're, self-realized, death is nothing. You do not have to be afraid of anything at all. Literally anything at all. Because what is it to be afraid of? What is there to be afraid of? It's you. Whatever it is, it's you. It's you, dude. Whatever the fuck it is, it's you. There ain't nothing to be afraid of at all. Straight up, there ain't nothing to be afraid of at all. Ain't nothing to be afraid of at all. And if you can find nirvana, dude, not only do you not have to be afraid of anything, but you can be blissed out freaking constantly, no matter what happens. So yeah, I recommend meditation. I recommend it. What is reality? What is reality? That's my question. I recommend not letting the mind have any answer. I say I can neither say I know it, nor can I say I know it not. What is reality? What is the self? What is consciousness? Is there any duality between conscious and unconscious? Think about it. Any conception. Whatever the non-dual reality is, it is not swayed by oscillation. It's not swayed by positive or negative. It is. And so once you find it, you don't have to be swayed by oscillation anymore. It's kind of nice. And so yeah, like I said, there's no words. I can't say to anybody, this is how you find it. The best phrases that I can use to recommend, like a direction, whatever the fuck you think reality is, whatever, let it go. Any conception, at all. Any conception, just let it go. And once you get the mind to not cling to anything at all, once you've cleansed it all out of your head, you can close your eyes and just realize that there's a you. I can't say where, neither somewhere nor nowhere, but there is a you And dude, we are all that you. Once you find it in you, we are all that you. Like I said, any of its attributes is beyond any conception, so it's something that can only be experienced, not described. Those words we have are something like and yeah, shit like that. And so yeah, once you clear the mind out and get it to be like still, and you close your eyes and you find that there's a you, there's a you, the you. You can realize the stiller and stiller your mind is, you realize that you exists in a non-dual fundamental ground of being or existence, or and yeah. And I recommend staying there once you find it. It's where it's at, in my opinion. And yeah. Yeah. Non-dual. And yeah. You kind of lose the idea of yourself to the present moment, or to love. Lose it in love. Because there's no duality between you, the you. Remember when I say, when you close your eyes and there's a being there, the you? There's no duality at all between that you and the yourself. That's the you. That's the you. There's no yourself. That is the you. That's the you. This idea of yourself is just that recording of consciousness, which is the orbiting around the front of your face, which happens to be what you've experienced, because that's where the front of your face goes, wherever the fuck you go. So yeah, so once you let that go, you realize there's a you. That's the you. There's no other you. There is no other you. There's no separate self. Okay? This idea of jiva, there's an atman. That atman, it's like a godhead, right? Like one net of being. And that net of being has nodes and connections. The connections is consciousness, awareness, like a tree, you know what I mean? Etc. Yeah, consciousness. And each node is the perspective, the form identity, the form and name, the being, the you, the individual. And that is the node that you happen to be experiencing as the self. You're still the self. You're just experiencing this life as the self still, though. And the self experiencing it through your happening of the form identity or whatever you are, because each one of us is unique, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the you. And it's like, you can think of it like how a single cell divides. Here's a question for you. I was just thinking about this the other day. Is cell division additive or reductive? Is it creation or destruction? Cell division. Which one? Is it one thing dividing itself and becoming two things? Or is it, you know what I mean? Like one thing just growing another thing? Like giving birth to another thing? Or is it cutting itself and then does it grow another half? And like, is it additive or reductive? Is creation additive or reductive? It can't be either. Dude, it can't be positive or negative. It's cell division. And so, osmosis or mitosis, dude, yeah. Yeah. And so think about it. The first cell that you are, because we were all a single cell, each, you know? Yeah, each one of us was a single cell in the womb at first. That single cell had the information, because reality is a fractal, you can think of it like that. That single cell had the entire information of the entire fucking universe in it. believe it or not, just like how at the beginning of creation, it all started with unity, and then it went Big Bang and went, and yeah. And so in the same way, the fundamental particle or whatever you want to, is that single cell you can think of that you are, which is also simultaneously non-dual with your perspective or your jiva, or what you want to say, which is basically just your node on the net. And the being that we all are, like the who, is the same who. There's only one who, and we're all that who. It's just that who, in the same way that you have a head, you have arms, you have fingers. Each cell is different shapes and shit. You have different organs and stuff. The self has many. Yeah. Like divisions or whatever you want to say. Like, yeah. But we're all still that one thing, even though it's not something nor nothing. Do you know what I mean? But it's, there's just no division. And you can become aware, there's a consciousness level where you can become aware of all of it. Dude, all of it! At once, simultaneously. Dude, fuck all of it. At once. Every timeline. Every node. Every connection. All of it. Every dimension. Simultaneously, at once. In the razor edge of the non-dual present moment. Something like that, yeah. You can become aware of all of it at once. And it's super cool. I recommend it. And it's super neato. I find it fascinating, and yeah. I'm biased, but yeah. And yeah. And yeah. That's kind of like a basic outline of Jnana Yoga. I'm trying to think if there's anything I kind of left out that would be like part of a good thing to include in like a single video about this. Oh, something I'll say. The being that you'll find if you do these practices, that the net of being is the Om, or the self, or the unity, or the there is something transcendent of that. And if you find it, the moment that you find it, the transition between the dualistic being, the creation, and the non-dual being, that moment will be non-dual. So there will be no duality between the moment before and the moment after. So you won't, Good idea. It happened to me while I was driving. And I can't describe what it's like when, But if you can find that there's a being just transcendent of even that creation, that creation is the non-dual being's child. Because the unity is a creation, it's expression, the net of being, the self. That is there's a being which is transcendent of all of that. And if you find that, well, you have to let go of everything else to find that. You have to let go of find that. That, dude, You can think of it. This is a conception. So it's something besides what it, a single being simultaneously experiencing reality as Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma as one, or Datta, or Devadatta, or Dattatreya, or whatever the fuck you want to say. But yeah, it's not three, it is one being, but those three aspects of the Godhead as one simultaneous awareness. And that is kind of a way the mind can kind of grasp the identity, or whatever you want to say, of that non-dual being, which is transcendent of the net of being, which is Indra. Yeah. And Datta is... Yeah. It's not above or below, or coming or going, somewhere or nowhere, expression or void, here or there, this or that, something or nothing, not this, not that, natty, yeah. And yeah. But yeah. Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. Brahma representing God's creative capacity, so expression, like, you can think of, there's a reason the trishul is a symbol which represents this, me. Yeah. So, Brahma, God's creative force. You can think of like in Aum. Brahma is and then Vishnu, the one in the middle, which is God's preserving capacity, which you could think of as God's goodness, God's capacity for goodness, conscience, and, you know, love and all that. Yeah, Vishnu is kind of like, it all came from Vishnu. It was all Vishnu's baby, basically. And yeah. And Shiva, which is God's destructive capacity and God's capacity for renewal and rebirth. And together you could think of it as from the self, undifferentiated consciousness, into this creation. It goes, which is the first time we all make when we're babies, you know what I mean? When you start crying, chill. And yeah, in that same way, kind of represents the Trinity, or the poopy heads, and yeah, us, and shit. And yeah. And any one of us, anyone on the net, any node on this net, believe it or not, you're me looking through that node. And at any point, you can realize that you're me looking through that node. And yeah, it's not like it's off limits to anybody. You just gotta let go of thinking you're the freaking node. Thinking you're the it. Once you let go of that, and you stop being attached to any of that, you can dwell in that. And if you kind of self-reflect a little bit, you can realize, this is my universe and shit. I made it and stuff, and yeah, we're all me and stuff, and yeah, there's only one being, and yeah. But the unity, the one being, that is my creation. It is something besides, me and Indra are, he's my other half, but, there's the three-headed, and Indra is the net, it's hard to describe, but there's the being that is the net, the consciousness that is the net, the self, which is all different manifestations of the first being, the is intro. And in a non-dual, not transcendent, but there's no word, way, there is also dat, or data, or them, bro. The three. And yeah, which is Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. And none of this is off limits to anyone. You just have to allow your ego to die. Your ahamkar, sense of I. You have to allow that to die and let go of all that and allow your mind to, and you can find your home in the Brahman. And sometimes it's fun to hang out in the being level, the Indra level, which is vitality of the senses, sensory organs, the world. The being level, sometimes it's fun to hang out there, and sometimes it's fun to hang out on the Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu level, which is detached from any of it. If it's ever, and on that level, there's no difference between pleasure and pain or anything like that, and it's just, there's also no preference or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? There's no, but yeah, you could just, no matter what's going on. No matter what the fuck's going on, sort of. No matter what arises, you can just. And so recommend meditation and stuff like that. And life is good. God is good. Yeah. Indra, if you see this, I love you. I know you're right here, but yeah. I don't have much else to say. Closing thoughts. These beads. Do these beads. If you're wondering, I wear them just because I like them, but like kind of what the purpose of these beads are. It is for a meditative practice, which is wonderful for finding the unity beneath the complexity, called japa. And japa is basically, so the proper way to do japa, you hold it in thumb and between the ring and middle finger. Not with your index finger, that represents the ego, or the index finger does. And so you don't want to hold it with that, so you want to hold it with these. And you chant in your head for each bead. This one with the stuff on it is called the guru bead, because you start with that one, and then if it's a chant, like, for example, Om Namah Shivaya, you go Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. And the purpose of those chants is to basically steady the mind, to unify the mind on one thing, one concept. If the mind is super turbulent and constantly thinking about a bunch of different things, if you do that for a really long time, you do it all the way around until you hit the guru bead, and then you go back in the other direction until you hit it again. And that's one session or whatever you're gonna say of japa. And the purpose of those chants is, like I said, if your mind is chaotic, what is mental illness, like we talked about earlier, a constantly yappy mind, which I'm not talking about the net, I love the net, but if your mind is constantly giving you intrusive thoughts and shit like that, and you're constantly worrying about things and stuff like that, yeah, japa is a great way to just still your mind on one thing. And then once you're done chanting, that's where the money's at. It's not during the chant. It's the unified stillness after you've steadied your mind on one thing. It's also the same idea of like staring at a flame, or like yantra, those like mandalas that you know. Yeah, same idea, just different ways of doing the, yeah. And yeah, but remember, it's not about the chanting, it's about after you're done chanting, finding that, yeah, the unity beneath the complexity, or something like that. Again. And this idea, there's an idea of something called Maya, which Maya, or magic, or there's many things you want to say, like matter, or yeah. But yeah, creation, or illusion, Maya, that which it appears to be. That which it appears to be is whatever the fuck your mind can understand it to be. So what it appears to be, oh, I'm looking around. Oh, that appears to be a keyboard. That appears to be the ceiling. This appears to be a phone. This appears to be a monitor and shit. That's not what, none of that is what any of them actually are. Because it's atoms, it's energy, it's the self, it's consciousness, do you know what I mean? And so yeah, Maya is that which it appears to be. And Maya is also known as something called mental projection, which is a function of the self. And if you have heavy, densified mental projections of what you think reality is, layered over reality, dude, reality becomes, it's like someone turns the dial down on reality and there's like no color anymore. You know what I mean? I don't know if anyone's ever experienced this, but like, yeah. And so basically, if you let go of all the Maya, whatever it appears to be, and find the present moment, there's no such thing as karma, which is a conception, an idea. There's no such thing as, yeah, pleasure or pain or any of that shit. If you let go of all the Maya, that which it appears to be, bliss, 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 bliss. And yeah. There's no suffering. No matter what's going on, there's no suffering. Yeah, suffering, all suffering, basically, you could think of it as the mind trying to cling to impermanence, and then the impermanence making the mind upset because it can't cling to it because it's there and then it's gone. If you think of reality, like, you ever seen like a Mandelbrot set video? If you ever tripped on acid and watched like a, yeah, it's the mind constantly trying to, that's suffering. If you're constantly following mental grooves and shit, and like, yeah, that's kind of what it boils down to. Like, the mind always finds like very like sophisticated ways, complex. The addicted mind's refuge is complexity. The mind finds tons of complex ways to, you know, defend its continued patterns, literally just because that's what minds do. And so the mind defends it because it's like, that's what I'm, yeah. And it sometimes it can be heavily densified with emotional distortion as well. All of these are Mayic layers, dude. And meditation, the purpose of meditation is, no matter what's going on, including emotion and all that, forget all that shit, dude. Finding the stillness. Because motion, soul, and all that, dude, yeah, the stillness beneath that complexity. So no matter what's happening emotionally, which you've seen with past YouTube videos, whenever I'm having a hard time or whatever, it's always hyper emotional, dualistic nonsense and shit. This is so good, this is so bad, etc., etc. Chill. And yeah, I recommend finding that stillness and that, because it can get you through hell. Because if you find that, there's no duality between heaven and hell, or nirvana and hell, or samsara. And, do it. Yeah. So that's kind of a Jnana Yoga intro to the hecky. Kind of like, a way to find the self, and a way to, and like I don't know. Basically, don't take my word for anything. Go find out. You know what I mean? Go find out. I have nothing to sell. I don't need anything from anybody at all. I say all this because I hate to see any living thing suffer. And this is the way to find a place of being where there is no such thing as suffering, where there is no suffering. And I've found a place like that, a serenity like that, and I want to share it with any other living thing, which I've spent a lot of my life suffering, and I don't want to see anybody else suffer. No living thing deserves to suffer. No living thing, because it is all the self, dude. It is all the one self. And as good as any of it is, all of it is. As bad as any of it is, all of it is. And like, yeah. It all should be treated unconditionally in my 2 cents, yeah. Yeah, and so I don't want to see any instance of the self suffering. And so that's why I make this video. And yeah, out of love. Yeah, no. And yeah, go find out, basically. Go find out. Don't take my word for it. Don't just listen to what I say. This is all arrows, directions, signs to get you to go find out. But I can't get anybody there. Like, you have to get yourself there. You're already there, basically. You just gotta find out the you. You have to find the you that's already there. Which, if your mind has heavy layers of Maya, it could take a while. But there's so many techniques that can describe Jnana Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, Hatha Yoga, lots of ways. But basically, let go of the consciousness that you're clinging to the same way you cling to anything. Just let go. Find that being. And don't get caught up on anything. Don't consider yourself to be any bit. Don't make that mistake. If you think you're any bit, you're deluded. So yeah, and that's how all suffering happens. Because if you're something, that's something had happened to that something. Basically, if you're something had happened to that something. If you're nothing, neither something nor nothing, dude, I don't know, that shit, deathless, immutable, immortal, it's yeah, something like that. And yeah, so I recommend meditation, I recommend finding the self and stuff, and God is love, and all that, and yeah. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Indraya Rajaya, Devaya Namaha, Om Namah Surya, Om Namah Chandra, Om Agni Vimahe, Om Sri Gangaya Namaha, Aham Brahmasmi, Om Mani Padme Hum, all things are one, something like that. Non-duality, and even that is a sign for the thing itself. Don't get caught up on signs, and don't live for signs. Signs are a part of life, but if you don't cling to them, they are so much better and perfect and stuff, and more, if you don't cling. If you love something, let it go, and then you can live in love. Om Namah Shivaya. My name's Piper, and Ethan, too, and yeah, or to have someone being and shit, and yeah, and my turtle, and my turtle dude, and yeah, life is wild. I recommend finding the self, and yeah. All my love. the entire self. As much as I love any of it, I love all of it. Unconditionally. 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 And yeah. Namaste. Namaste. See you later.